So maybe it's clear to some, if not all people by now, that the E-001 bioweapon Evelyn is extremely flawed. Not so much as a human, but as a weapon. This does require a concise and clear explanation. What's her purpose or her endgame? And why is she such a stinking brat? To make a long story short, Evelyn was being taken on a ship, transported through the Gulf of Mexico en route to Central America to be taken to a second lab. Mia Winters and Alan were to play the part of mother and father as to not raise any suspicion to the crew on board. Their orders were to dispose of her if anything were to go wrong. Unfortunately, things did go wrong. Evelyn escaped captivity while aboard the ship, got into the heads, and killed everyone on board, only to leave Mia alive because of a special affinity she had for her. The ship, without a captain and due to a hurricane, veered off course and ended up capsizing and exploding in the wetlands of southern Louisiana. Mia and Evelyn were found and taken in by the Baker family in the remote location of Dulvey, completely unaware of any danger either of them posed. So, just what is Evelyn's malfunction? We learn through the main game that Evelyn is a bioweapon. She is a product of genetic modification during the embryonic stage. Her sole purpose is to infiltrate a population as a normal little girl and disarm them from within by using her secretions of the mutamycete to turn them into willing subjects.
They're mine now. What?
While the E-series is still quite flawed, despite what the R&D report says, perfected, all this didn't go without a little trial and error. Before the first of the E-series, being Evelyn, there was the A through D series of experiments. Essentially, how these were created were by introducing the mutamycete genome to a human embryo and cultivating it for a period of time. Most turned out impractical and faulty. Evelyn is also able to create organisms called molded from the filaments of the fungus called mycelia. These creatures are tough and have great strength. Though it is not explicitly specified, it is shown through picture cells of test experiments on an X-ray illuminator. 5 minutes after the dose of the E-series mycelia, the host begins vomiting. After 10 minutes, the host will die. We see this through Alan. But 12 minutes after the dose, the body calcifies. From there, we can assume the reanimation process takes place, under the control of Evelyn. Basically, what the molded mycelia does is form an exoskeleton, recomposing various body parts or entire bodies of corpses as we can gather through various points in the game. That is why you may see some molded missing appendages here and there. A good example is the transformed head of the officer.
Dick.
Sorry. What strikes me as a little inconsistent is that it appeared the host had to be alive in order for the mycelia to spread. But that did not turn out to be the case with the deputy, as he was obviously transforming. Postmortem. Now, if you're wondering how a 10-year-old little girl is supposed to infiltrate a population in secret and blend in, well, it's a little easier than you may think. While posing as an orphan, there are plenty of families that will see a poor, abandoned little girl and take her in. Through Evelyn's mind control, she can quite easily manipulate them, make them think she is their biological daughter, and use them or others to disarm a population of terrorists without anyone suspecting a thing. And it really makes you wonder, does she take on the race of the family she targets by making everyone hallucinate how she really looks? For all intents and purposes, it wouldn't be very effective for a white girl to blend in as a biological daughter of a family of a completely different race. The complex she exhibits with Mia being her mommy may be why she looks kinda like Mia. If that's the case, speculation aside, it's basically a discreet and silent warfare to render other bioweapons obsolete. She has this family concept in her head and uses her mutamycete to infect their brains and make them believe she is their daughter. But this concept of family was never intentional. For example, Lucas, who began working with Tensu, the company responsible for her, within a year after the incident emails them this message. I was wondering, is this whole family obsession something you guys programmed into her? Lucas shows absolutely no knowledge of what Evelyn was designed for, despite there being an R&D report in the next room that explains it was not really planned that way. That she seems to settle upon family is the theme for her mental control, presumably to blend into social groups. Because of this flaw in the first of the E-series, Evelyn is unable to control herself when it comes to kidnapping several people in order to add them to her family.
Welcome to the family, son.
In fact, she has kidnapped over 20 people. Lucas says, Evelyn's family obsession is getting out of hand. She's kidnapping more and more assholes off the street to add to her freak show of a family. The R&D report says that possibly she wants to blend in with a family to make up for a perceived lack of parental love in her quarantine upbringing. This could be true, but I lean more towards her being more of a biological fuck-up, as she was never engineered to murder.
They're all dead. The engine room. What the fuck are you talking about? She killed them all.
Jack doesn't seem to think so. Despite everything, he still sees the good in her. What a guy!
Listen, the girl just wants a family of her own.
Evelyn's drawing on a wooden board is her idea of a perfect family. It shows her obsession with the idea of having a mother, father, brother, and sister. But it goes beyond even that. Where the fundamental flaw in her thinking becomes most apparent can be seen through one of her drawings. It blatantly says, "my family," with several little stick people and not just the 4. There's a whole drawer of shoes. I don't know what that means, but it's possibly from victims. It's also pretty clear she tends to want to replace people, as in the case with Jack and Ethan.
Now she says he will be her father.
You can also see a very symbolic drawing as a hallucination in her bedroom and at the very beginning of the game. It's a spiral loop that keeps repeating the words, "I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry. I will not be bad." God, I don't know. I can't do that. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry. I will not be bad." In my mind, this symbolizes the cycle of trying to replace her dad over and over and over again. So what we wound up with is a bioweapon that has a compulsive nature to make a family and continue to replace them. Who is obsessed with killing whoever she feels like if they resist or just aren't up to par.
Does it want to be my daddy? Then he can die.
Evelyn has a mindset of a little girl. Even Lucas makes mention of this. And without any parenting, being held in captivity her whole life, she has no set morals of right or wrong, is unable to control her powers when emotion overrides logic, and she is just bratty.
Kill him, Mommy.
As a result, she was a walking disaster, just waiting to happen. On top of all those flaws to her design, she rapidly ages. As you have seen through the main game, you should know by now that old lady you see time and time again is Evelyn. And when you see the young girl, it is how she chooses to project herself as a hallucination. I'd say she ages approximately 25 to 30 years in a single year. It was likely only a matter of time before she died of old age. As we know, there is a serum and an E-necrotoxin. The serum is created by performing tests maybe, on samples of Evelyn's body tissue. Okay. But we see through the game that Zoe creates the serum through the combined use of a D-series arm and a D-series head. Where did she get that idea? Whatever the case, unless she uses them in tandem with Evelyn's body tissue, then there wouldn't be a contradiction. That would make sense. It's never really mentioned how it works, but it really doesn't matter how it's processed as long as it doesn't lead to any confusing plot holes. Well, where do we start? I'm ready. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. First, the memo on creating the serum never mentions using Evelyn's body tissue, whereas the R&D report too says the process requires it, while neglecting to mention anything about the D-series body parts. And why those specific body parts?
Do you have both ingredients?
Why are you only able to create enough serum for the 2 people? What is she even doing? And how does she even know what she's doing? At the same time, what series the serum is for is blanked out in the memo, so for all we know, we could be creating the wrong serum altogether. Second, that report also states, administering the serum to an infected subject will cause the mycelia to calcify, but if the subject's cells are already largely invaded, the serum will be fatal. Since the treatment window is so small, the serum's primary use is therefore disposal of infected subjects, rather than a cure. We use the serum on Jack to kill him, and it works. Then we come to another decision to cure either Mia or Zoe. Mind you, Mia has been infected for a slightly longer time than Zoe. Mia also exhibits behavior of being pretty far gone, bouncing between mid and late stages of the infection. If you use the serum on her, it works! She leaves with Ethan at the end, presumably cured. Hooray!
Love, 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 love.
But hey, you know what? That's pretty contradictory of the memo that states it should kill her. Regardless of the memo, I think the serum was supposed to cure Zoe too. She seems to have handled herself a lot better than Mia, and is visually the most unaffected person in the game. And after using the serum on her, she calcifies much like Jack did and dies.
No, Evie, please, Evie.
Zoe!
But as you can see, Evelyn's tentacle mass appears and that leads to her death. This leads me to believe that Evelyn sped up Zoe's infection so the serum would kill her instead. Good timing, Evie. Well played! You managed to frustrate every player that chose her. Then, there is an E-necrotoxin. The R&D report explains, in exploring the serum's potential, we found that subjecting it to blank would enhance its effects to extreme potency, becoming a compound we now call E-necrotoxin, which blankety blank blank blanks in even tiny amounts. The E-necrotoxin is supposed to kill Evelyn, and the process in which you create this compound makes complete sense. You put the blood sample into a machine that does blankety blank, then you get the needle with the compound and inject it into Evelyn. She cries like a 10-year-old girl and melts into a pool on the ground and dies. Oh wait, never mind, she's back. Tensu, didn't you guys test this shit? Yes, they did. Why she survives after this injection is a complete contradiction to what you've come to expect. Instead, it takes what seems to be specialized bullets to finally take her down for good. For more on the contradictions and plot holes I've uncovered while analyzing this game, be sure to check out my next video on Resident Evil 7. Honestly, I only just scratched the surface. And thank you all for watching this video. Please subscribe or consider becoming a patron like these selfless, wonderful people who pledge to me monthly on Patreon. A shout out to my new patrons being Jay, Jack Bristow, Essa Tremendo, and Brandon Weaver. And a very special shout out to the following patrons: the legendary Chris, GSXP, and Jay, the heroic Tyler Hunter and Jack Bristow, the elite Andreas Birnbaumer, Alex Loop, Jonathan Ryan, Schwifty, and Sigma Undine Goodnight. Please subscribe or become a patron. Thanks again and see you around. Oh, Daddy, please forgive me, Daddy. No, I won't do it again. I won't be bad. I won't be bad, Daddy, I promise. Daddy, I won't be bad.